Let's talk about the space race for a second. This is an interesting conversation that I've been having with my producer, the great and powerful Jay Hay. So there's this space race that's happening between 3 billionaires, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, and Elon Musk, right? So Branson wanted to go to space himself. His flight actually happened this past Sunday. He had moved his flight up because he wanted to be in space before Bezos. Bezos has a plan to take off, I think, on July 20th. My first reaction to this is the ego of these guys, right? The ego of these guys. Imagine having so much money that this is what you do to play. This is what you do to play. You compete to see who gets into space first. But there is a bit more, not hypothetical, there's a bit more theoretical underpinning to this space race that I do think is worth talking about. And it has to do not just with these men, whether they're liberal or conservative, how they got their money, whether they're billionaires or whether I think they're good or bad people. It's actually has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with just our country. The power of our country, the fact that America is the world's superpower, yet there's a question of whether the American empire, if you will, is expanding or whether we are on the decline. And it's in a political sense, when Democrats are in charge and they undermine American greatness and American exceptionalism and, kowtow to our enemies, it's easy to think that America's going to decline, that we aren't going to be the world superpower anymore. But here's an interesting point. When empires are expanding, these countries are constantly exploring and innovating and seeking new things, if you will. It's a literal expansion. Now, whether this is knowledge, whether it is prosperity, it doesn't have to be land exploration in the literal sense, but there's a constant expansion that is happening when empires are still growing, when they are still on the rise. But you contrast that with empires that are in decline. What happens when empires are in decline is, as a nation, we turn inward. And what I mean by that is masculinity, the traditional idea of masculinity, is no longer needed. The protection of men, the provision from men, the manly, I don't even know what the word is, but this manly urge for exploration, building, creating, innovating, it isn't needed the same way, and so it withers. Here in America, we are at this tipping point. Are we continuing to be on the rise as a nation, or are we on the decline? Because we're safe, we're explored, our nation is settled. So the question is, what's next? Will we continue to innovate? Will we continue to expand? Or will we fold into ourselves? That is why the space race should be interesting to people, even if you don't care about space, even if you don't like Jeff Bezos, even if you think it's a giant exercise of their egos to buy themselves a toy spaceship and launch themselves into space. This is why it's interesting, though, because space is the final frontier in a sense. This is a way that this is a place we haven't explored, a way that we haven't innovated. And yet, we now have a race, a competition to explore this and expand this and innovate in space. And it's interesting. Now, to be fair, not all of this is interesting. While workshopping this idea yesterday, Jay Hay started talking to me about why people, maybe even conservatives, should live on the moon. Don't ask. I'm actually sorry I asked. My question to him was more of an exclamation of what? Why? And then I regretted saying even that because I suffered for about 10 minutes of a long drawn out thought experiment about living on the moon. Can there be freedom on the moon? If so, how? Because if you live in a bubble on the moon, you have to live in a bubble. And if everybody lives in a bubble, there can't be an armed citizenry because you can't have a society in which one person could kill all the rest with one gun in one fell swoop. But can you actually be free without an armed citizenry? I wrote half the script of the show today before his rant had ended. Let's just say that. So the point of this is Jay Hay likes science fiction too much, but the space race is still a thing to behold. And for that, I will give him great credit for pointing this out, because a country heading in the right direction, growing, expanding, innovating, now he's talking in my ear, must continue to explore. And that's what we're doing with the space race. Either that, or these billionaires just have huge egos to satisfy.
Hi. Before you go, let me talk to you about something. As you know, I've been censored on Facebook and YouTube. So I partnered with locals to create a censorship-free community. I also just launched my show, and I have a lot of exciting new things coming up that I want to make sure I can share with you and get your input on. I'm going to be sharing behind-the-scenes looks of my set and my show prep, and I get a lot of questions about my hair and makeup routines, my research process, and so much more. So I'll give you sneak peeks of all of that. I'll also be doing exclusive segments of my show just for Locals VIPs. All of my interviews will be shared on Locals for VIPs to watch as well. I'll be taking questions directly from VIPs for the video mailbag in my show, and you'll get the episodes free from ads. Who doesn't love that? Not to mention, I'll keep doing everything that you've already come to love. Ask me questions for live Q&As. Let's talk about your favorite books, what yummy vegan food I'm eating for lunch, and what ridiculous headlines I'm reading today. You can do all of that and more, but only if you are a Liz Wheeler Show VIP on Locals. The monthly subscription is $9 a month, but if you really want a good deal, we have an annual subscription for just $72. That's 4 months free. 4 months. So join me on Locals as a VIP. I'll see you over there.